Welcome to the Roots of the LMHE podcast. We're here to amplify the voices of Louisiana's music community and cultural leaders while exploring how heritage, creativity, and economic equity intersect. I am George Geekus here, and I am honored to be joined by Joel Savoy in his studio here in Eunice. Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
Yes, incredibly excited to discuss your life, your family lineage, and where do you see the Acadian and Cajun music going forward. So you told us when we got here, your children are the 8th generation of Savoys on this land. That's absolutely incredible. Can you talk a little bit about how your family got here?
Sure, yeah. My father's family is descended from the Acadians who were expelled from Nova Scotia, Eastern Canada in 1755.
1755.
Made their way down to New Orleans, and they were given Spanish land grants to come out west and settle this area. The Prairie Ficatayak is where we are right now. On the
Say that again?
Prairie Ficatayak.
Ficatayak.
Yep, it's a Choctaw word. It means female turkey hen.
Lovely.
And
Super cool.
It's the name of this long prairie here where we farm rice and raise crawfish and build Cajun accordions and play Cajun French music.
And the Cajun accordions, your father was the first generation to start that.
That is correct. Yeah, my dad in 1957 started building. In 1957, he saw his first handmade Sidney Brown accordion from Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Okay.
Sidney Brown had repaired so many accordions, he was basically building a whole new instrument.
Yeah.
And so he was taking these parts from other accordions and putting together new accordions. And my dad saw this, like, oh my God, I never even realized that you can make an accordion. He saw this in the trunk of a car at a Cajun campground right over here, and he got inspired, and him and his dad started in this room that we're in right now, tinkering and building an accordion with what they could find around the farm.
Amazing. And that's something that you also continue to do.
Fast forward to this day and age, and I've been working with my dad for 6 years building accordions every day.
And they're going all across the world.
They go all over the world.
And what's the turnaround for an accordion to start from idea to fruition?
We're like 4 or 5 months.
Labor of love.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And that's your father's side. And your mother is also an accomplished musician in her own right.
Yep. My mom was born in Richmond, Virginia, and got here as soon as she could, I would say. She was a product of Beatlemania, but she was a French student, discovered the French-speaking Cajuns who were, at the time in the 60s and 70s, most people didn't know that there was an entire community of native French speakers down here in this weird little swampy bayou corner of Louisiana. Mm-hmm. And my mom, as in college as a French student, met my dad and heard him speaking this beautiful archaic French with his friends. It was like, I need to find out what that is.
Yeah, where are you guys from?
And came here, fell in love, became one of the early people documenting this culture, wrote 2 books all about Cajun Zydeco Creole music, about the French language, transcribed a bunch of the songs, has had bands with my dad and with her friends forever, and done all kind of amazing things that have inspired me to do what I do today.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about your upbringing and what was it like not only growing up in an area where the lineage can be traced so far back, but also in an incredibly musical family that has this identity of who they are. And it feels like it just soaked into where we are currently. Like I can feel the history in this room right now. It's beautiful.
This little building that's now my recording studio, the home of my label Valcor Records, has had many lives for sure. It was my grandfather's outdoor kitchen, I guess, at the time that my dad started his accordion business out here. It was where they would have their parties when my grandmother didn't want them in the house.
Of course.
But yeah, as I was saying earlier, spent a lot of time traveling around the world. And when you meet somebody, it's like, hey, where are you from? Mm-hmm. And people would so often reply to me saying, well, I live in New Orleans, or I live in wherever, I live. And in my brain, I'm always thinking like, well, that's cool that you live there, but where are you from? And it took me a long time to realize that most people, or a lot of people, spend their lives trying to get to the place, settle in a place that they identify with. And I feel so, fortunate to just be from this place that I live, like you said, 8th generation, this place that I live is my identity.
You're living
it just
in it.
happened
Yeah.
that way. I mean, I was born here, I grew up here, I still live here, sure, but it's just completely permeated every single aspect of my life, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
And not only are you an artist in yourself, you're a record label owner, you're an accordion builder, you also produce and engineer music, preserving the culture in itself, which is, as you were telling me before, your father is really steadfast on the idea of tradition and what could be better than actually recording and tangibly having access to this music. It's fantastic. It's really great. I'd like to discuss a little bit, since we are in your studio, about the process of what it's like finding the musicians and what it's like running a label of Acadian and Cajun music. I think it's fantastic.
Well, you can think about it's not that dissimilar from New Orleans. You know, you can't. Everybody you meet is a musician. Your taxi driver, whatever. Everybody is a musician.
Yeah.
The same around here. Everybody plays music. All of the music community is very close knit. We're all friends, pretty much. You know, all bands share band members, and so it's very easy to find musicians. And there's a lot of talent, just like there is in New Orleans. Talking about my dad being a traditionalist, you know, before the folk revival, my dad was in his 20s playing Cajun accordion, playing the music of his heroes, the old generation that play this beautiful, the music from like literally right here, like within a 15-mile, maybe even smaller radius from right here. That's the music that my dad loved. And he was doing this. And as the music, as other people from outside, as the American, you know, as the Americans started coming here, and Dad saw, you know, somebody needs to like preserve this music, has to be protected and saved, you know. And maybe he was always this way, maybe not, but that was always his thing. It's like, this is the beautiful music and language of my people. This is what I want to make sure endures for all time.
It became a calling.
And of course, you know, as people from the outside come in, but not only as a product of people from the outside coming in and being spectators to this music, but the music does naturally evolve because there's other stuff happening, other influences are creeping in. They always have. You know, Texas is right there. There's Mississippi right there. There's New Orleans right there. I mean, for Christ's sake. So there's all of these influences constantly just infiltrating, you know, whatever this music started out as. Just like there's no pure anything. There's no pure form of music. You know, there's no pure Cajun music. There's earlier recordings, and then things influence it, and it changes. And you see that happening here today in Acadiana. There's bands that play the most pure form of the music, and there's bands doing wild, far out things with it.
Having fun with it.
Yeah.
Putting their own twist on it.
And just like anyone, I have my own taste, and I, you know, probably focusing mostly on my friend group, I would say, but I like to, you know, what those guys are doing is what interests me. And so I reach out to that particular circle and kind of cultivate my or curate my label based on what interests me in this area.
Yeah. I want to touch on something you said. You mentioned that Cajun music is all music from this region. It isn't necessarily traditionalist. It's also people pushing the envelope going forward. Is there anything else you think that the greater public might get wrong or have these preconceived notions about Cajun music that you'd like to kind of squash, or you just think something else needs more light shed on?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I'm saying Cajun music from this area today. You would say that Cajun music, Creole music, and Zydeco music were all born.
Blend. Yeah.
A long time ago, before people started having to label those things, anyone with an accordion sitting around singing in French played French music.
Understood. Yeah.
You could be black, you could be purple, you could be white, any color at all. It doesn't matter. People with an accordion playing music with an accordion singing in French.
French music. Yes.
That's what they called it. It wasn't until way later where people were like, oh, that's Cajun because they're the Acadiens who became the Cajuns who became the Cajuns. That, you know, is only a very small part of the story. Those people, like where the Acadians came from, that's not accordion music. You know, if you go up there today, nothing is similar about the music at all. Sure, they play fiddles up there, but it sounds nothing like the fiddling here. as my buddy Jordan Thibodeau says, where we are today, it's easier to define this area as the Upper Caribbean.
Of course, yeah, the northernmost part of the Caribbean. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So yeah, I mean, there's just a million different influences that have come into this music and made it so special. This music couldn't come from anywhere else. It was never an opportunity for all of these different cultures to collide in this little French-speaking isolated place.
And that's because you were incubated to a certain degree. It allowed everything to kind of just bubble together.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite wonderful. I'd like to talk about the parallels between Acadian music coming from Canada and also where we are in Cajun country.
First of all, I would just say that Acadian music is not Cajun music, although Cajun is derived from Acadian, and we love our Acadian friends. It's really interesting going up to places like Nova Scotia and New Brunswick because you see all of these Cajun names up there. Everywhere you go, you got the Saulniers, the Terriots, the Boudreaux, the Thibodeaux, the Savoys, the LeBlancs. They're all there. All the Cajun names are there. And you hear people speaking of a similar old antiquated version of French. This is because our ancestors came from the same place their ancestors came from. They came from France at a certain time. You take a language from one point in time, you move it way over here where it's isolated from that group of people speaking that language. They're both going to change in their own way. Same thing happened down here. If the Cajuns were deported in 1755, then that means the French in Louisiana grew out of the French from 1755, which was already an earlier version of French from the main continent.
Of course.
From when they got to Canada. So you end up with this Louis XIV French or something down in this weird little southwest corner of Louisiana where it grows, kind of grows. A lot of it stays the same. And the music, I don't know. The music, maybe if there had been no other influences, if just Acadians came here to this little spot and they brought their fiddles or whatever songs they had when they were deported from Canada, whatever, I don't know, I'm assuming it was mostly fiddle music and songs, then maybe our music would be much more similar to what they have up there now. But it's a similar story. Their music grew in its own way with their certain influences. Our music here met Germans, it met African Americans, it met, you name it. It met people, Creoles from the Caribbean, it met this, and it became its own thing. So today, when you go up there, you hear this fast, fiery fiddle music, and you hear people speaking French, but it's not Cajun. It's its own thing, and that's what's beautiful about it.
It's interesting. I always wonder if, temperature and climate
I think about
has
it all
a
the time.
play in it. And I'd like to touch on that because you mentioned it being fiery, or as you know, that region of Canada,
it's cold. It's cold.
Very
in the summer.
cold. Yeah. It's cold in the summer where you could benefit from playing these fast virtuosic lines where the slow drawl
exactly right.
and the drawl out of the vocal here is more suited to
everything
the weather.
Just sounds like it comes from a hot place.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I really,
it really does.
I think it's lovely that you can trace it back and be able to have these landmarks and experience and be able to live it with, brothers and sisters and cousins of yesteryear.
Totally.
And that must be a fantastic musical experience for you. What's one musical experience that really sticks out for you with your music community that made you realize you were a part of something special here?
That's pretty tricky to answer.
I think it's your life, right?
I mean, it's
one that just sticks out, maybe a formative one.
Maybe not one experience, but I will say that my dad has been hosting an acoustic jam session in the front of his accordion shop, former music store, every Saturday morning, where all of the old timers were given a place.
Let's talk about the jam session.
Yeah, so this is the jam session my dad's been hosting forever, since I was a child. And my life, it's got its my trajectory. Like as a child, I go over there on Saturday mornings because my parents are over there on Saturday mornings. So all the kids go. We watch TV. Eventually we come downstairs. We're like, realize what's happening. This is as I'm like 0 to 16, 17, maybe even older. And eventually I'm sitting there right with everybody playing the fiddle when I'm 11 years old, learning getting to sit with all of the old Cajun heroes, everybody that my dad has admired, and those guys didn't have much of a place to play anymore. And that's kind of what made him start it. He was like, oh, well, everybody wants to go out dancing to all these young modern bands now. Modern, whatever.
Of course.
But more high energy or just different Cajun bands. So the old timers were they didn't have a place. So Dad gave them this place Saturday morning. And I got to sit there every Saturday morning learning from them, sitting next to them. Maybe I'm not learning note for note every time. Maybe sometimes I'm just getting to sit there and hear them or just be with them, And that was an amazing experience. It was an amazing way to grow up where it was nothing about me at all. Everything musical. It was not about me performing. It wasn't about me learning how to perform or even feel like there was a need to ever perform. It was about getting to spend time with this older generation.
Of course.
And that was the magic of it. That's, and all of my siblings went through this. And I think that's a huge part of who we are today.
Would you find that these elder statesmen of the culture, were they willing to bestow knowledge upon you, or was it gate kept, or was it just you're happen to be there along for the ride because your dad is hosting it, or could any 11-year-old that was intrigued could show up and
I would say that anyone could absolutely, and people did. Everyone came over there and came up playing there and learned from people there. No one thought that they had anything special to share with anyone else. It wasn't even that kind of thing. It was like, you want to sit and watch me play fiddle or record? It's like, why? So many reasons why, but people didn't think these were working people. They weren't not one of those people hardly would have called themselves a musician. These are people that spent their entire lives working in fields and doing manual labor. And they got together and got to play music only on Saturday mornings because they couldn't do it any other time.
And they loved it. Yeah. I think it's interesting you have a culture similar to New Orleans where you have to spend a lot of your time really dealing with the hard aspects of life, and that release, that cathartic nature is the music. It is the Saturday that you get together with your neighbors and your friends in order to play. And I think it's hard to like articulate and put something to it, but you can just sense it through the music, through the food, through the culture, that these people really know how to live and enjoy life.
Absolutely.
And it feels like that's something is also passed down as part of the legacy from these people, is that these people have been through tough times. So we need to honor that, admire it, but also we need to live for them.
Yep. I think that's a huge, you hit it right on the head. I mean, I grew up at the feet of all these guys, right? My parents, when they got together for fun, what they did is they cooked food, they played music, and they had a good time sitting around a pot, maybe having a couple of drinks, maybe not. But they played music with their friends, and that was their entertainment. And that's my entertainment today. That's totally instilled in me. That's my life. Like when I want to have fun, we get instruments out and we play music. That's what we do.
I love that. Can you, your father, you're saying the traditionalists, the preservationists. Why do you think it's important to preserve all the Cajun music?
I think preserving all of the Cajun music has already been done.
Okay.
I mean, everyone here is eternally grateful for that. I think, like I said earlier, you're looking at stuff that's already been done. It's been documented to the extent that it can be, really, I think, unless some new stuff turns up. People have been through it. They've transcribed it. There's recordings. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it anywhere. Most people have their own little secret stashes of like field recordings on their phones. It's like, oh, did you hear this? So-and-so has this version of this. Yeah, but that's, musicians, like we're just all nerding out on certain things that are special to us. Like a big one that I got into for a while, that there's a bunch of fiddle players that were into this, but it was like Walter Mouton's band at La Poussière. Several different people went over there and with cassette recorders, and they'd record the band like every Saturday night or something. And it was everybody's, like these awesome, Dick Richard, Tony Thibodeau, great fiddle players. But so fiddle players are all like, oh man, so-and-so's got this version of this with this lick, this break on it. You should hear him play this song this way.
Yeah.
And, that kind of stuff.
The minutia of everything.
Yeah, but we're musicians. That's what we do, you get that. But we're talking about documenting Cajun music or preserving it. It is preserved. We can access any I could pick up my phone right now and pretty much pull up any Cajun recording ever made, right?
Yeah, true.
So right now, what's important to me is to live the culture, keep it going. Before we started the cameras, we were just talking about my dad being a traditionalist and how, there is a shared repertoire here. Everybody plays
the standards.
At least
you have to
100, probably. I mean, I play with a guy named Jesse Leger, and when we go out on a tour, the first night he'll play 2 hours, worth of music. The next night he's like, we're not going to repeat any songs from the night before. And you could do this. He could do this for a week.
You better get your stuff typed before you go on the road.
Exactly.
With them. Yeah.
But there's a repertoire here that everybody plays.
Yeah.
And this is great. But there's also a lot of new songs being written that are just as important as the songs from back then. And I think in a big way that I differ from my dad is that I'm passionate about people, new creatives coming into this, new creatives in this culture and what they're adding to it, not only musically and lyrically, but sonically, like as a sound, I guess just as a band sound, what people are doing, because everybody's got their own kind of
course.
You and I could listen to one song and we'll both hear it completely differently. Like you're focused on one aspect of it. I'm probably focused more on something else.
Yeah,
and
of course.
It's just the way that we experience music. So everybody's bringing something new to the table. And that's what I think it's important to document right now. Hence my label that I started in 2006. Let's focus on what the young people in Acadiana are doing right now. Because it was exciting. It still is, but at that moment, it was like, okay, wow, there was the Lost Bayou Ramblers, with the Red Stick Ramblers. There was so much fun stuff happening in music, and just everybody was buddies. We were all getting together, and just it's really neat. And that's what inspired me at the time to get a little record label going.
And were you engineering before that point?
Yeah, I started out. My parents are musicians, so my mom always had a 4-track. She was always working on ideas. My mom is the producer in the family. She's like she's a much better producer than me. She has this amazing big picture view. I'm a total tech, I can barely see the forest for the trees. But anyway, my mom had her cassette 4-track, and I had all my buddies coming over to play music. So I'd Mom, I need to borrow the 4-track, and we were figuring it out. And eventually I got really into recording. I got some reel-to-reels, and my parents had bands, the Savoy Cajun band, the Magnolia Sisters, and they were like, well, you're so into recording. What if we bought some nicer equipment? You could use it to record our records, and then you can record,
you and your buds have a good time.
Yeah. Stuff to do. And it kept me out of, definitely kept us out of, I guess it kept us out of trouble. I mean, my grandparents were gone at that time at this property where we are now. So me and my friends hung out here where I now live and in this room. And we just all learned together how to play music, how to record it, how to produce it, how to, just experimental, just figuring it all out.
That's absolutely incredible. Not only the fact that you had the opportunity to do it here, but your parents actually encouraged you and gave you incentive to do it. Because a lot of, growing up and wanting to play music, if you went to your parents and say, hey, me and my buddies, we're going to make a band, we want to make a record, they would say, what the hell are you talking about?
Totally.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, so here's my dad, Mr. Traditionalist. He's I've got this, I'm playing Cajun fiddle. I'm learning, I'm learning it. Meanwhile, I'm interested in everything else going on. Sebado, Nirvana, all these other bands that are going on. And I'm like, Dad, I want an electric guitar and a big loud amp. And he's like, okay, here, let's figure it out. Let's get you what you need. And he supports that. Both of my parents. I mean, they're supportive. They're like, you're playing music. It's great. You could be doing a million other things that we would rather you not be doing. So
I love the fact that your traditionalist father, the preservationist, still wants you to have the guitar and have fun, but it's your mother who is the producer type. I think it's really fantastic and fascinating about that. And since we are in your studio, you do a fair amount of sessions and records here for your label.
I do, yeah. And I do a lot of sessions here that are not on my label. Okay. Just working as an engineer for bands all around the world, really.
Okay. And there's a lot of artists. I would assume this is a kind of a cultural hub in itself, this studio right here for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I'm kind of picky about what I record these days. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years, but I really focus on mostly acoustic sounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's my specialty. But I work with acoustic players from all different backgrounds around the country, usually in like the American roots category.
That's awesome. And you've been fortunate enough to win some Grammy accolades. If you want to discuss that a little bit.
Pretty special. In 2012, I produced my brother and Steve Riley and Wayne Toops had a band they called Coubillon. I think Wayne named it one night after the catfish dish, you know?
Okay.
But they got together. Wayne played accordion. Steve played acoustic guitar. Steve's an amazing accordion player and fiddle player, band leader. And my brother was a great band leader, killer musician on every instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And he played fiddle in the band. And so I was like, I'd go watch him at the Cafe des Amis in Brobridge. I was like, guys, y'all got to just come make a record of this. It's so cool just seeing you do this. Because they're just like digging into the repertoire and pulling out their favorite old songs.
Just having fun.
Just having fun. We made this record. And, you know, out of all of the records that go to the Grammys, all the highly produced, all of the fancy and like experimental whatever, we won a Grammy for this little 3-piece acoustic Cajun band just sitting around playing. We made the record in like 2 days. You know, everything was just like done so fast.
Isn't it wild how sometimes the things that are revered the most just come together like that, as opposed to using these LA surgeons to come in and, you know, million people on the arrangements. And we all
know there's room for all of that, for everything.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and it's totally true, but there's sometimes it's like you listen to, I mean, oh my God, anybody, but Aretha Franklin, you think it matters if Aretha Franklin's coming through on an MP3 or a high resolution wave. It does not at all.
That is a
timeless performance. It's like she's in there giving it her everything, making music with people. That's what comes across. You can put it on a microchip and I'm sure it'll be great. You know, it doesn't matter. And I love that about music. That's always my favorite thing, is like, this is a small space, but I record like 6-piece bands in here, you know, and that's what's fun. It's like people playing music in these little spaces is really fun and special.
It seems as though it's almost because you are a Savoy, because you've been blessed with this lineage and you can see where it has come from, where it's going, that it's almost a duty for you at this point to record these artists, to make sure this music is staying relevant, not only the region to the world, and that you're a purveyor of it at this point.
I think so. I think I've created my own brand, you know, like I was saying, kind of curating what I specifically am interested in. I will say that's also just the tip of the iceberg of stuff happening around here, you know. There's a lot of music in this area, just like there is in New Orleans. And I wish, honest to God, I knew kind of more about what was happening in New Orleans, because just like when y'all come to Lafayette or when y'all come to Acadiana, it's easy to say, oh, I recognize that name. I know they're good. I'm going to go see them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it's a lot harder for people from anywhere, much less, you know, from outside of the state or country, to like really find the magical little secret special stuff that is definitely going on in both kind of epicenters in South Louisiana, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, you know, back to the epicenter of New Orleans, we're trying to have the process of starting to build this museum, the Louisiana Music Heritage Experience. And where do you see the cultural future of Cajun music as a part of the museum?
Well, I think that's kind of what I was just starting to say. You know, it was a great segue. Good job.
that's the real job in this stuff.
I love it. It was great.
It's like a bebop solo, you know?
I mean, even if this project was only about New Orleans, it would be magnificent, because because it's so connected to the music community. That's the beauty of it. Because it's so connected to everyone in the music community, it gives everyone from the outside, including from over here in Acadiana or anywhere, a chance to just be like, I can go here and know that I'm going to find all the real deal, authentic, right stuff.
Yes,
this is the way. I don't have to start on Bourbon Street. I can start here. This is my gateway.
I love that. And I think, you know, similar to my knowledge of the Cajun, you know, culture is not as nearly as vast as what I know about living in New Orleans, but I'm incredibly intrigued about these jam sessions at your dad's, like Cajun Mardi Gras. There's all these elements, going to a boucherie and just having like picking parties, all this stuff. It just seems incredible that it's baked into who you guys are. And I think that's something we share, that reverence together, and we see the importance of each other. And you couldn't have a museum in New Orleans about Louisiana and not have your region.
I totally agree. I was just making an example.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, I mean, even if it was just that would be amazing. But now, I mean, you know what I think? I think anybody that crosses enters the city of New Orleans, like, what do you call it? Just the city limits.
The parish, yeah.
Should have, like, from out of town, should have to go to the museum first. And then,
love that.
Then they can go out.
Then you can go to Bourbon Street after.
Then you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
Or like you land, in New Orleans, and every airplane terminal like has to funnel through the museum somehow. Then you get out. I
like that. Now, you mentioned when your father would have these jam sessions that these people were mostly, working in the farm all day and out in the field, and music was kind of a passion project. So obviously there's always been challenges for musicians as gig workers that are facing to just like long-term stability and pay. And one of the things we're trying to do with the museum is offer people fair and honest pay and establish the fact that the arts are something that should be revered, not just in a cultural sense, but a monetary sense. What is it like being from this area and region and trying to do music as a profession?
As musicians, we all love what we do. We love playing music. Mm-hmm. We all realize that there's a lot of challenges. I mean, think about a person on stage. What has it taken for anyone on any stage, literally like any person standing in front of people, to be there at that moment doing their job to any degree? Like, think about somebody who's amazing, who's on the road in Europe from South Louisiana. What did it take them to, first of all, get in their career to the point where someone in Europe wanted them to be there? Mm-hmm. Much less, how did they get there? How much did it cost them to get there? Things like that. How much is the instrument they're playing cost them? How much do they pay to insure it? Mm-hmm. How much does it cost just to upkeep that instrument? All of these things. No one, and we all do it. None of us ever think about that stuff hardly whenever we're watching musicians, or, when we're watching a show. It's like, oh, this is fun. We're hanging out, listening to music. And when you're enjoying something, it's hard to think about all of that kind of financial
equity and the man hours.
It's hard to think about all that
nature of it
because we're having fun. It's like, oh, I want to go have fun, but I don't necessarily want to pay $20 cover at this to go and get in here. Well, you kind of have to, because otherwise this person couldn't do it at all. It's like there's a reason that there's a cover charge, and there's a reason like that. My brother opened a bar in Lafayette and during COVID. And he started saying, you know what? He said, you want to come play here? I'll give you 100% of the door. We're going to make money on bar and food. Mm-hmm. Y'all keep the money because y'all need the money. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows. It's like, it's hard these days to put any band on the road at all, especially if you're a new band nobody's ever heard of you.
Of course. We
used to get in a van when gas was cheap.
Yep.
We'd go and we'd play and we'd sleep. We didn't have kids. We'd sleep on floors. We'd get up and we'd drive 5, 6 hours, 7 hours, maybe more, do the same thing. We do that for a month. You can't even do that now. It's
tough being on the concrete sea these days. Yeah.
It is very hard to make a living doing this, and it's never going to stop anyone, but you can't, it's getting harder and harder every day to monetize music. We all know this. We all are guilty of using YouTube, Spotify, all these things to listen to music, but it's how the world consumes music. We all do it. Mm-hmm. So right now I need to reference something. I'm going to get on Spotify or YouTube. I'm going to pull it up. If I listen to music in my car, there's no CD player, there's nothing else. It's like if you download music on your phone, where does it even go if you don't use Apple Music?
Exactly.
Which I don't. It's like, it's impossible to not do that. So how do you monetize? How does a musician pay for anything? It's at a gig, you're paying these gigs. It's like, oh yeah, nobody wants to pay you, but I get it. It's like, they don't understand.
Yeah.
So I think raising an awareness about this is step one. Let's raise an awareness. Like, you all love music. Everybody out there loves music. Let's talk about what it takes to hear good music. You love good food. You'll go out and spend a whole ton of money on eating a fancy meal or something, and then go to the place that has no cover charge so that you can just go and have a good time or something.
I love that. I've never thought about that. Other mediums of art like food is respected way more in music, and that
In a
it's
way,
just in certain ways where, like you said, you'll take your wife out to a fantastic dinner and want the same caliber of art in the form of auditory listening, but that $20 cover I'm not going to pay, but I just paid $80 for a couple steaks or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, it's got to be even more difficult when it's a regional specific music. And sometimes it's not even spoken in a language and sung in a language that people can hear. And unless it's being catered to specifically, it seems like the barriers are even more difficult in that sense.
I think that is true. We were talking earlier about, I love being here and living here in this property, but sometimes it's like at the end of the summer or something, it's like, why on earth do we live here?
Same with New Orleans.
It's hot. It's just like, it is difficult to live in this place sometimes. And, you think all of these zillions of tourists are coming to Louisiana just to experience the nature or the fishing or something or the sports. That is not what's happening down here. People don't come to South Louisiana for that stuff. They come to South Louisiana for music.
Of course.
And they come to South Louisiana for food, I would say secondarily. But they come here because they know it's a music area, because they know it's unique. It's cultural tourism. It wouldn't exist without the music. And, I think you're right. I think music is experienced differently than the food culture, and they should probably be closer to on par with each other.
Yeah, I think at a philosophical level, it's hard to change the identity of how you want things to be viewed, especially when not even on a national or national level, just on a societal level, it is no longer, I'm not going to pay for a song when I can just listen to it for free, where, you have to eat food. You don't have to technically listen to music, but it's such a interwoven in the fabric of our existence down here. You would assume that coming from a region, an area where it's has a profound impact on the day-to-dayness of life, that we would be the ones kind of passing the torch and holding up the beacon of light for everybody else to show them how it could be done. And in hopes that's partially what this museum can do, and show everyone else, hey, look, this is how, how important music is to our culture. This is how it needs to be revered everywhere else.
Yeah, let's take care of these people that are bringing all of these people to the state. Every, how many millions of people come to South Louisiana just to hear music?
And are the creatives getting an iota of that revenue coming in? No.
How many musicians do you know that aren't down and out all the time?
Yeah.
Like famous songwriters, famous touring musicians.
It's not the way,
And it's everywhere down here. I mean, it's probably all over the world. That's just how it is.
It's changed where, there are no record sales, and that's only one element of it. And we're very fortunate and blessed to still have the idea of a live show. But if you want your music to be heard in more places, you need people to be able to listen to it wherever it's from,
and it needs to get recorded.
And
how do you pay for a recording with no sales?
There's distribution. It's
all of
it's the entire industry that none of these people want. They just say, "Hey, man, I just want to hear that song." And now this is too much effort for this song. I don't need to hear any of this. I just want to hear what I want to hear. And it's like it's an uphill battle, but it's a necessary battle.
Absolutely. Louisiana hasn't really been at the forefront in a lot of policies like this, and I think this would be a great place to start.
Yeah, it seems as though, I'm not a local native Louisianan, but I have lived here more than anywhere else. We've always punched above our weight class to a certain degree, and there is an element of, we were mentioning before, just how it can be tough to live here, but it also allows people to really live here when it comes time to living here, which is shown through the music, the food, the culture, the celebration of life. And this is an opportunity for all of us, for people from New Orleans, people from Acadian, to come together and just say, look at what we have built, look at what we have done. You can live and breathe it with us, not just through the music, but just through the food, just the culture. Come and be forced into this museum once you leave your airport experience.
It's a beautiful mission.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Now, I'm interested in some of the projects you're personally working on right now, since we are in your studio and you do have your label. What are some things you're excited about that you're currently doing?
I meant to mention this earlier.
Yeah,
didn't,
please
but
plug.
We were talking about, records. We won the Grammy with these 4 guys. As a bass player, Eric Fry was on there. 4 guys won a Grammy playing traditional Cajun music. Mm-hmm. We just made a record. Our last record had like 40 people on it. It was a tribute to the king of Zydeco, Clifton Chenier, and won our second Grammy for that one. That was amazing because, talk about, it's everything we're talking about. We had Taj Mahal, Steve Earle, all these people on it. Then the Rolling Stones came in and did a song, a Clifton Chenier song, Mick Jagger singing in French, singing Zydeco Son Pas Aller. Like, that's insane to think that would ever happen, And here are these people that have been, none of these people asked for anything to be on this project. These people are on this project because they were influenced by this music from Opelousas, Louisiana, but South Louisiana is what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. They were influenced by this music, and they found out we're doing this. They're like, oh yeah, we'd like to be part of that. Here's a band like the Rolling Stones. They've never, I don't think, done any kind of, well, first of all, Mick Jagger's, I don't think ever sang in French on a record. They never participated in, I'm trying to think of these statistics.
Compilation record of some
compilation.
kind.
It's all the
Tribute.
profits are going to a scholarship in Clifton's name at the university in Lafayette. Just amazing the way that these people wanted to be part of this record because of the music from South Louisiana. So that was extremely special to take that to the Grammys and come home with a trophy.
Not only the trophy, just the validity that
well, that's what I mean.
Gives.
I don't even have the trophy. I just mean
but just by having, arguably the most prolific recording artists in history come say, hey, I want to be a part of this. It just puts a stamp of credibility on it. That
it's a win for everyone.
It's a win for everybody. And not only is this fantastic, this is serious now. This is a certain light needs to be shed on it. And it's really inspiring, the fact that you've guys you've just been able to incubate yourselves to a point of where you're able to nurture this entire culture to where now when it pokes out, it's just a beacon of light that can be shown all over the world. And it's truly inspiring because not many places are like this, or New Orleans. You've been all over the world at this point. It's special. There's something in the water or something in the air
absolutely
that
right.
just allows people to want to live and breathe art and what they do.
And say you've never heard of anything from down here, right? You don't know anything about anything, but you're a Rolling Stones fan or a Lucinda Williams fan or a Taj Mahal or Steve, or any of these. You're like, oh, he's on this or that this person's on this project, a tribute to somebody. Like, who is that?
Who is this person?
Any of that.
What are they about?
If all that record could have done is introduced new people to music from down here, then it would have been successful. That is the idea, because this is just the tip of the iceberg. Clifton Chenier is amazing. That music's incredible, and it's a huge part of what we do here. But there's so much more. Mm-hmm. So hopefully people come down here, they'll discover more, get inspired. And
what do you think the younger generation of the locals are going to provide to propel the culture forward? Because you talk about, obviously, you said earlier that you think all of the traditional Cajun songs that needed to have been recorded and preserved have already been there. So now looking forward,
I think what I said is
okay. Tell me what you said.
The music from the past has already been
there,
documented.
Yes.
is all I was trying to say.
The young. What do you see for the future with a younger generation? Because you're not part of the older generation, but you're not a new and up and comer, but you're old enough to put your stamp of approval on something to give it your blessing for maybe somebody who's a part of the older generation would say, okay, Joel says I should check this out. I'm going to check this out. Basically, you could be a tastemaker.
I love getting to be in that role too with the label. It's been amazing to be able to do that. And I will say that I can only, it's me and one business partner that run the label. So I can't put out everything that I want to put out. Of course. But what I see in the younger generation, to answer your question, is I see a beautiful mix of people that want to play old, traditional, pure music, just like my dad does and did. They want to play that early hardcore dance hall, or even earlier than that, the Amadeo Ordway, the Dennis McGee. These people want to do that, but I also see them and their peers, their friends, doing all kind of wild stuff, influenced by new kinds of music that exist today that didn't exist, or that didn't influence me when I was that age.
Well, I just want to thank you for your time. It has been such a learning experience for me to come up here, and I feel very fortunate that you've opened up your home and we've been able to hang out and learn a bunch of stuff. I just want to send off this podcast. Please visit lmhe.live. You can donate or become an ambassador to the Louisiana Music and Heritage Experience. You can have an opportunity to buy Funk Fest tickets. And please follow us on socials, on Instagram at LMHE NOLA, and on YouTube at LMHE_live.